Now, our final presentation is Mr. Andrew Nelson, and he's an expert in social communication with persons on the spectrum. And this will, you're not going to have to worry about falling asleep after lunch, I guarantee you. I've heard Andrew speak several times, and every time is better than the last. So with no further ado, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. All right. Everybody feeling okay? Doing all right? What a lunch. Thank you for everything. And I'd just like to say thanks to Epic and Carolyn, Bonnie, and Sarah for setting this up. How cool. And also thank you to our guy Joey, who's going to be documenting this and helping us exponentially get the information out there. So it is always, every time we get to train, it's an honor. So thank you for spending a summer day with us today. We really appreciate it. We are going to talk about social communication. In the next hour and a half, this is where we're heading. I'll give you some theoretical, some ideas, background, but then we're going to try to get some nuts and bolts too of what you can do in certain situations, and I'll give you a variety of supports to try. So, first of all, somebody tell me when the first time you were social was today. What was the first thing you did that was social today? Smile, did somebody say? Who did you smile to? Okay, so that was the first thing you did that was social this morning. Introduce yourself. You said back there? Right. Absolutely. Mine was the standing on the porch with the sunrise, looking over and awkwardly seeing the guy in the next hotel room in his robe in the morning. Oh, hi, sir. Good to see you. Sometimes it's my wife throwing an elbow into my kidney. Shut your alarm off. What are a couple other things that you did that have been social today? Anybody? Oh, that's great. You hugged the coffee guy. Fantastic. Now, how many times, Carolyn, have you been social since you hugged the coffee guy, would you say? Okay. Yeah. Right. Just in the last minute, you and I have had two different interactions. One was over here, we're saying, we're ready to go, yeah, let's do that. Now we have this. Think about how many times we've been social since that first smile or that first introduction. It's almost too many to count. It's almost too many to even comprehend. And our friends on the autism spectrum can greatly struggle with this. You've heard it in all three presentations now today. This can be a very big area of challenge. And just imagine throughout this presentation and throughout the rest of your work, if some of those skills weren't present, how difficult life would be. I want to start with a mantra. And this is one that I created for myself to remind me that the people I work with are not damaged, broken, partially complete human beings. That regardless of what is going on in their lives, you as you, young man or woman, are enough. You as you right in this moment are enough. You are not broken. You are not 75% of the way to being a neurotypical. You are not 80% recovered from your autism. You, Randy, are enough. This is an important thing for me to remind myself, and I have to do this every single day because we can slip so easily back into, oh, if she would just go to the bathroom, she would be, oh man, it would be amazing. Or if you would just stop throwing chairs, the world would be so much better for you. And we lose track of the fact that this is an individual and they are completely whole when they come to our classroom every day. Now that does not mean that there isn't room for improvement. That does not mean that there isn't an opportunity for us to make and help make their lives of higher quality. But we have to remind ourselves of this. Does that make sense? Now the next quote, anybody familiar with the name Judy Endow? She's an adult on the spectrum that is very well noted. She wrote a lot of the books on the hidden curriculum, which I'll show you a little later. But Judy is an adult on the spectrum who just really knows how to tell it like it is. And we were at a conference one time, a brainstorming session for a group, and she slid over on a piece of hotel paper to me this quote that said, "Work with me, not on me." Now Judy will say that she didn't come up with that quote, but she's the person I heard it from, so I attribute it to her. And that quote hit me like a ton of bricks. Work with me, not on me. Because so many times we're looking at an individual with autism like they're on this, I tend to think of the Frankenstein analogy. Like, okay, if I could just help their body do this a little better. And if right over here we could do this little brain tweak, and then in the heart we're going to do this little empathy and theory of mind tweak over here, and then all of a sudden the lightning, and they're going to rise, and they're going to be a human being ready for the world. We do that a lot to people on the spectrum. I think we send the message that they as they are not enough, and that we are working on them instead of with them. Does that make sense? Okay. This can be especially a big pitfall with social skills, because we're sending a message all the time when we're teaching a social skill, hey, look, you really missed something here. You did not get it. We want you to go over here and watch this group of neurotypicals do it. That's how you should be doing it. So when we're talking about social skills, we have to be very careful that we're not sending these two messages. Okay. So, something to think about too. Social skills versus social adaptation. This comes from a gal named Janine Collins, who is the editor of this bulletin. If you write down the ARI Adults with ASD bulletin, this is a group that puts out every 2 or 3 months a fantastic free e-bulletin that if you just Google that, you'll be able to sign up for it for free. And they kick out some fantastic information on the lives of adults on the spectrum. But Janine says, what about the need to identify my interpersonal difference? To be self-determined and self-advocate. Where am I at? Self-advocate in social context. What about the balance between executing the right social graces and respecting my own way of interfacing with the world? What about the issue of the energy it takes to act socially versus respecting and accommodating oneself? I absolutely adore this quote, because what I think Janine is saying is that there's this middle ground. We think that sometimes in our social skills instruction, we have to teach every little response. This is what you do when. This is what you do when. This is what you do when. And what Janine is saying is, wait a second. What if my style as a human being is to be introverted? Or what if my style is the way I interface with the world is a little different than yours? Are you really going to teach me every response? Or are you going to teach me to know myself and how I interact with the world? So I really love that quote. It's just another one of those mind frame shifters for me. Any questions about that or thoughts? And Joey, I'm probably your nightmare here, pacing all around. Sorry, I have to say I am a recovering theater major. And so, Joey, if you have to zap me with a little bit of electricity, don't worry, I will stop pacing around. Okay. This concept comes from a parent. Yeah, we do some presentations with a man living in the state whose son is on the spectrum, and he said, it wasn't until I stopped trying to pull my son into our normal world, when I stopped doing that, that's when I finally connected. And I think a lot of the times what we do with social skills is say, hey, look, over here is sociability, and this is where you should be. And so what we do is we tie a rope around that person psychologically and educationally, and we say, come on! Get over here, and once you're here, oh, there you go, the land of the neurotypical, sometimes we use the word normal kids, and now you're in there, great. But what we're doing is dragging, like Janine's quote, we're dragging Janine out of her sensibilities. So we have to stop pulling others into our normal social world. We've got to meet people halfway. Analyze your own interaction strategies. How many of you, sitting at a table at lunchtime, and it's okay to admit it, get kind of nervous in that situation? I do. How many of you don't like to have people watch you eat? For me, it's a freak out thing. I don't know what it is. I really struggle with that. How many of you are afraid of alpha males? I am. I am. When I get around alpha males, I tend to kind of get a little, really, I don't know what it is, but that's my interaction strategy when I'm around a bunch of jocks. Let me slow down. I was our t-ball coach this year for my son. So I had to really put it on. Yep, okay, Billy. All these other dads are around. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I get home and I'm like, did I do an okay job, children? Was it okay? Did I hurt anybody's feelings? Our own interaction strategies. We're all different. We're all unique. And if there was this little circle over here that I said, okay, take all of those quirks and now we're going to tie this educational rope around you and pull you over here, we wouldn't like it. We want to be who we are. We want to coexist in community. We want to be able to talk about things with people, but there's no mold that we have to fit our kids in. Think about how you learn social skills. How did you all learn how to be social? Eye contact or watching people? What games did you play as a kid? Hide and seek. What was that? Peekaboo? Yeah. What else? Absolutely. The peekaboo game. I've got a 7-month-old right now, and she's kind of over peekaboo. She's like, yeah, I got you figured out, Dad. What other games? What? Tag. Sure.
Dodgeball.
Sure. Yep. What is it? Sports? Yeah, sports teams. Absolutely. If you were weird like me, you had a spy club where neighborhood kids from the ages of 6 to 10 would sneak around at sunset and look in neighbors' windows. We learned how to organize, we learned how to make bylaws, and we learned how to be peeping Toms all at a very early age. But absolutely, games. Social skills. Patty playing house in preschool. I remember, I'm really painting a weird picture of myself here today, but I was the only boy invited to a Cabbage Patch Kid party of 35 girls. So I learned a lot of that. I was always like the guy playing dad at house and things, but we all learned it through cops and robbers and fun games. The way we teach social skills in our schools is often out of a book. We sit around a table, we talk about scenarios, and then they go on their merry way. We have to kind of step into the shoes of being a kid again when we teach social skills. Because that's how we all learned, through play and creativity. So we're going to need those references to kind of guide our lessons, but also we're going to need that other part of our brain that says, let's have some fun. And think of strengths, not just deficits. We get so bogged down into X person cannot. We get so bogged down in that we forget X person can do a lot of things. And so when you're teaching social skills, try to play on those strengths. If you've got a guy that's really interested in being a fireman and he can rattle off all the different codes that come across a scanner, how could we play a game where we're playing Firehouse and it's a code 71B, everybody to the station, and all those things. Try to think about the strengths, not just the deficits. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is awesome because, well, I'll talk about this in a second, but I need a volunteer, one person that's a volunteer to come on up. And this is the point where, nice, all right, everybody give Michael a hand, thank you. Now, I need a second volunteer, one who does not know Michael or has never met Michael before. Somebody willing to come on up? It's going to be painless, you will not be made a fool, okay? As you come up, the rest of us, what I want you to do is you're now your educational observer. You're in a classroom and you're watching social behavior. I want you to watch these two interact. So Michael and, help me, Loretta. What I want you to do is just have a normal conversation, loud enough so everybody can hear you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay, and you?
Pretty good.
All right, you have a great day?
Yeah, good enough. Got kind of tired. How about?
Well, it's been a crazy, crazy summer, yeah. I don't know what we're going to do because it's just going too fast. I'm not ready to get back to work.
Oh, well, at least you'll have a few hours, right?
Okay, hold right there. Excellent, good. Stay right there. Folks, what do you see? Talk to me. What do you see? Anything? What do you got? Okay.
Loretta's like, Loretta's not quite making eye contact with it.
Okay, you're not seeing a bunch of eye contact from Loretta. You did a distance thing. How far apart are they standing? Okay, yeah, a good healthy amount. About 2 hula hoops worth, which if you're trying to teach a kid social boundaries, that gets up into people's space, hula hoop's an awesome visual. If our hula hoops cross, we're getting a little too close. Okay, good. What else do you see or hear? Or smell? Yes. Aha, okay, no introduction. All right. What else? Yes, sir? Nervous energy. And how did that manifest? What did you see that was a nervous energy? Okay. Yep. What about their hands? What were their hands doing? Yep. Michael's kind of in a guarded position, which is okay. It's okay. We do that all the time. I was just in the lunchroom and I caught myself talking to somebody like this. It's like he's giving the universal sign for choking. What is that? So I had to kind of... Right. And her hands, what were her hands doing? Behind her back. Good observation. What does that tell us? Maybe, yeah, distant, careful, calculated. Now, throw in the mix maybe somebody on the autism spectrum or somebody that has a social deficit, and they go right up and give Michael a hug. How is he going to feel? He could be nervous. I could merely throw him off. Don't give him a hug, Loretta. Okay, good. Stay here for a second. In the spirit of applied behavior analysis and ABA, I'm going to reward our first volunteer. Would you say you're more of a blanket guy or a teddy bear guy?
Blanket.
Okay. All right. So, Michael, for stepping up and being our first volunteer, take yourself a West Virginia Autism blanket. Loretta, for you, my dear, you get the consolation coffee cup.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, good. Now, I need two folks that are best buds or tight, that know each other fairly well. Yeah, don't be bashful. Come on. Okay, good. Now, same rules, guys. Be observers, and gals, be observers. Watch them interact, and go for it. Be yourselves. Whoa. Aw, nice. Okay, hold right there, ladies. What do you see? What do you hear?
More
Good
like
job.
sister kind of.
Oh, like sisters? Yeah, yeah. How do you know that? What is it? Laughing as they're speaking. What else did you hear in their in their speech?
They kind of knew what the other one was going to say and was answering before the question came out.
Oh yeah. And even, not to make fun of you ladies, but even their tone from Michael and Loretta, which were maybe a little seated lower in the chest, resonators down here. This was all like this. Oh my God. How are you? Okay. So even the pitch and even the pitch and timbre was different. That sends us a signal as observers, doesn't it? Oh, what strangers would talk like that to each other? Okay. Body language. What did you see? Holding hands.
We knew each other a long time ago.
Okay, good. And it would not be hard for us if we were like Mark sitting on a park bench in Huntington and you see these 10-year-olds going around, to know that they had some history, to know that they had a... Okay, very nice job. You can have a seat. Well, you know... Carolyn, I'll mail you one if you're desperate for a teddy bear. We can... Yeah, right. Yeah. No reinforcement. That's just like hanging out together. Okay. Good. So you did a very nice job of looking and listening to try to figure out information. How hard is that for our friends on the spectrum sometimes? And how does that manifest? What do you see where those difficulties come up? Talk to me. What are some difficulties that happen there? Yeah.
Well, we talked to them about physical contact. What they see is, the crows in the hall that
Right.
each other.
Yeah.
We fell on this wrong.
Right. Yeah, you got to stay 2 hula hoops apart. Yeah. Right. Good point. So how convoluted is that? Look at this. Okay, so socially skilled behavior. This comes from 1982, way back before you were born, young lady. Okay. Pretty simple. Social interaction is really simple. Receive, process, and send. Nothing to it. I get a signal from you. I process that signal. I send something back. But what we don't look at is how complex this really is. So just in receiving information from another person, I have to identify their status. Is it my boss or is it my best friend Benny? Which is, my behavior is going to be radically different around those two people. Is it somebody that's sad? Are they happy? Are they tired? Are they upbeat? Their emotion? I have to comprehend the message. Was it a hello? Was it a goodbye? Was it a stern look? Was it an open look? I have to identify my long-term goal. My long-term goal is to be friendly towards my boss. My short-term goal is to say hi back. That's just receiving information. Now that I have to process that, these are all my response options. I could do a Three Stooges dance. I could give him a set of balloons. I could tap my head. I could wave to him. I could walk like this towards him and say hi. I could not say anything at all. All these response options pop into my head in a millisecond. And what I do is predict the impact of each one of those on their emotions, on their behavior, my short-term, long-term goal, and then I pick one. How fast do we do this? Split second. When you and I say hi in the morning, I mean, it is instant. I could give her a hug, or I could shake her hand, and then boom, I choose handshake. We do it in a split second. And how many times have you all been social today? Hundreds, maybe thousands, and we're doing it just that quickly. So then, after we've processed and we've picked one, we then got to send our message back. We got to make eye contact usually. We got to use a loud enough voice. We've got to talk pretty quickly or people are going to get disinterested. We've got to wait our turn. We've got to have good posture. If you all are talking to me and I'm going like this, yeah. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Oh, it's terrible. That sends a message to you. Or if you're talking to me at lunch and I have the universal sign for choking, that sends a message. Our hand gestures. How many of you as teachers have a very good knock down, get your butt down? Absolutely. Facial expressions. Our nonverbal active listening skills. That's all those things that we do to encourage a person. Our verbal active listening skills. Oh yeah, for sure. All those things that we do. And then we ask those open and closed-ended questions. How's your summer going? How are you feeling? How are the kids? That, ladies and gentlemen, is just one time. That's just one receive, process, and send. A lot of our folks and friends on the spectrum can get lost at step number 1 of the first process, identifying the interpersonal partner status. I know a young man where the superintendent of schools walked in and he said, "What are you doing here?" to the superintendent. Now we all go, "Oh my gosh." But that guy didn't know. Or if you don't comprehend an interpersonal partner's emotion, how many of you have had students come up to you while you are obviously chewing somebody out and say, "Excuse me, can I go sharpen my pencil? Can I use the bathroom?" "Not right now!" They're going, "Oh my gosh, okay." Because they didn't correctly comprehend step 2 of that whole complicated process. The whole point of this talk is to show you what we take for granted as folks that can typically manage some social interaction. Imagine that process being interrupted. Imagine that. How difficult, confusing, scary, anxiety-driving that might be. Many of our students struggle to gain that information. So do we spend our energy teaching them every single combination? Impossible. That'd be impossible for us to teach that. Or to be as adaptive as possible while developing their sense of self. So we're going to teach some ground rules, but we're also going to take into account that person's who they are. Okay, so here's some strategies. Self-awareness is absolutely critical in the social development part. That means knowing who I am and what makes me tick and how my body works, who I am. If you look at many of the common social strategies, we're going to talk about social stories, hidden curriculum, all of these autopsies, video modeling. Each one of them, self-awareness plays a major role in that strategy. So that person has to be knowing and learning about themselves in each one of those strategies. First, and this is going to piggyback off of Tara, it is very important to get some data. So you can show mom and dad, or you can show that student, or you can show yourself at the end of the day, whoa, what I did made a little bit of difference. So first we're going to collect some data. That can be through direct observation. And boy, I know you all are strapped for time as it is, and there's these people coming in and saying, "Yeah, take some data, nothing to it." You don't even get to go to the bathroom some days. That's the truth. I forget when the study came out, but bladder infections among teachers were, I'm not joking you, were some of the highest in the profession because they never got bathroom breaks. Raise your hand if you've ever had it. No, don't do that. All right. Self-report. Talk to that student. What do they feel about it? Talk to other students around them. Try to get some information. Parent-teacher interviews, the peers. The Super Skills Profile of Social Difficulty. If you want this tool, you can just Google Super Skills Profile, and there's a PDF form right there waiting for you. So this is a tool. You can go home, just Google the title of it, the name of the woman, and I'll show you this slide real quick again. It's in your slides, but Kukavanis. And she has made this 3 or 4 page assessment available for free online. It's a good one. It's down and dirty, it's quick, but what I love about it, and like what Tara showed, it kicks out some really fast goals. You can quickly look and say, okay, those 0s, 1s, and 2s are what I got to work on. Do you remember what I said about deficits and strengths? It also kicks out those 5s and 6s for you. So you know, oh, okay, so greeting people is a really strong skill for them. Let's have that person be the one that goes down to the office and greets the office staff. But knowing how to end a conversation is a 1 or a 2 for them. Let's build in a skill where they go and they say hi to everybody, but then they learn after 2 or 3 sentences, they get to leave that office. So this tool is very good about kicking out very specific things that you can do. What I often do is have mom and son or daughter, or dad and mom and son or daughter complete it so that we can compare. You can see that, let's see, I think the red is mom and the gray is the son. This guy thought he was doing pretty well. He's got himself up in the 4.5s, the 5s, and mom's got him down in the 0.5s in places. What does that tell us as observers? What do you see when you see something like that? What's the story being told by that data? Anybody? Uh-huh. He might not be self-aware that, whoa, wait a second, I don't have that skill. What else? Absolutely. So mom, who's been in the world 40 years, has a different concept of what those skills might be. It also, and we see this a lot, could be pessimism on the part of the caregiver. It could be a mom that's been through so many meetings at school that she's tired, or a dad that's been through so many things at school that they're tired, and it's a 1. Okay, he's not good at it. We see a lot of that too. So it's telling a story, and we're going to try to tease out that information.
But the other thing is, a lot of times, these kids end up together as
Oh yeah. Terrific point. Terrific point. Our friends on the spectrum are gotten pretty good at keeping it together at school, and the second they get in the house, oh, I can let that valve out. And mom and dad and brother and sister and grandpa and grandma then are experiencing 8 hours worth of pent up stuff, and it can get ugly. It can be very intense. That's a very good point too. So we did pre and post. It's a good tool where you can just do, it's a 5-minute interview tool where you can get good pre and post data. All right, let's talk about social stories. Okay. A social story, here's a tool. We're not going to, in the next 45 minutes, be able to teach you and train you how to write them, but I'm going to give you the starting blocks so that you can go research more or request a social skills or a social stories training, because we'd be happy to come out and teach you. It's a process that results in a product. So what it does, it assumes the perspective of the individual. So it's written from the first person. I do this. Sometimes this happens to me. I like to try these things, so that it's not a Moses and the 10 Commandments. You must, you will, it's from the first person perspective. It adds information that might be missing. And what's really good about social stories is that it minimizes social aspects of teaching, meaning I'm not going to sit at a table and say, now when you blew up on the playground, how do you think that made other people feel? It's taking all of that social teaching part out. The kid reads or listens to a story. They use visual cues and scripts to teach how to manage difficult situations. So here's the purposes. You use a social story to describe social situations that are difficult for the person. Sometimes I have to use the bathroom at school. Sometimes I talk to the guy next to me who's going to the bathroom too. It corrects responses in a non-threatening way. So social stories cannot and must not read like the thou shalt, because we read a lot of stories that are written that sound very punitive. You will sit down. You will not touch Billy at the playground. You boom, boom, boom. A social story, according to the way the woman named Carol Gray, that's another name to write down. She's the one that created this method. Part of that method is that they're non-threatening. Okay. It personalizes it. So we bring an interest of the individual into the social story. It helps them understand uncertainty or change. How many of you dread the 2-hour delay? Absolutely. So they can help with some of those things. Sometimes my speech teacher is sick at home. She can't help it. Sometimes I miss my speech session. I got to be able to handle that uncertainty or change. And it can address a wide variety of challenging behaviors. So this is something just to kind of tuck into your brain. And again, if you want more information on social stories, reach out, because you can find a lot online, but there are people around that would be willing to train it. Here's the 4 sentence types. Descriptive. That talks about where something occurs, who's there, what they're doing, and why. So sometimes I use the men's room. There are 7 urinals in the men's room. Sometimes other people are there. they have to go to the bathroom too, because, hey, everybody has to use the bathroom sometime. That's all descriptive stuff. And the rule is kind of 3 to 4 to 5 of those descriptive for every one directive. That's something to jot down. 3 to 4 of these descriptive perspectives for every one directive. Otherwise, a social story, again, is going to start to read like, boom, 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 you must do this. Okay, so we got all the descriptive. This is in the men's room. Sometimes when I'm going to the bathroom, I talk to other people next to me, and this really makes them uncomfortable. So it's giving the perspective of others. What I might try, again, that non-threatening, what I might try or what I can try is to just be quiet until we get out of the bathroom. Once we're in the hallway, it's going to be just fine to talk about what I wanted to talk about. So next time I use the bathroom, I might try to not talk to the guy next to me until we're done in the bathroom. And a control is not as important, but those are words or images that help recall the story. I'll give you a quick example of this. We worked with a guy who was just starting to get into play, and he was a 3rd grader. But his play style was to just leap on people, punch them. That was kind of his way to say, hey, let's play. And we still do that still. I mean, hey, how you doing? But he loved Lion King. And so we wrote a social story for him to talk about how to appropriately ask other kids to play. And we said, if I can tap them on the shoulder and ask them to play, everything will be Hakuna Matata. And so he used that phrase as, it was such a wonderful phrase too. He used that phrase to remind himself of the story on the playground. Did you like that one? Okay. Hakuna Matata, that recalled that story for him. All right, so you figure out a social situation, you get some information, write the story, implement it, and then see if it's working. That is pretty quick down and dirty on social stories. Again, if that's something that sticks in your head as, ooh, we should try that, reach out. Because there's people that are writing really good social stories. So here's just a sample. My teachers, Miss Dolan, Miss Prist, and Miss Young, have me in class. I work on music, gym, math, reading, social studies, and my favorite, art. It's just all describing. Sometimes my mind wanders during class or I get sleepy. When my mind wanders, my teachers want me to get back to work in class. There's a perspective statement. My teachers want this. I can try to get my mind back on track and get back to work by saying, chop, chop, get cracking, get moving, or you're losing it. And she came up with all of those. This will make my teachers feel good, and 4th grade will be a breeze. So a simple social story she could read at the beginning of those tough classes to remind herself to get cracking. You're losing it. I loved that one. Okay. Any questions on the social story process? Again, it's just going to be a quick introduction to it. How many of you are writing social stories and using that strategy? Good. Looks like almost 50%. So if you see a familiar face that just raised their hand, say, how the heck do you do that? Do you have any samples? Work together to try to teach those folks that have never written one how to do it. You can have a lot of fun with comic strips and cartooning. So you can do all the same things that a social story might do. They can reduce rage and meltdowns, provide communication alternatives. One thing I like to do is to take pictures of actual situations, and then we put the bubble above it, and we say, this was a young man whose brother was always stealing his favorite things from him. And this was a comic strip to teach about how to handle that rather than getting aggressive and punching his brother, but what he might say in those situations. So all I did was take those 4 pictures, cut in a balloon, and we worked on, okay, what can you say as he approaches? What can you say as he's taking your blanket? What are some other things you might try? And this was just a visual way to work through a social problem. Another really fun thing you can do is take your Sunday comics, go through them, find one that has some pretty good emotional expression in it, and then take white out and white out what the people are saying in the bubble, and then you cut that out, and a person has to kind of make inferences by looking at those pictures. Oh, this is what they might be saying, and they have to write in their own kind of scripts or stories within those bubbles. That's just a fun way to take unique materials and teach a social skill through something that's a little more interesting than just us sitting at a table talking. All right, the hidden curriculum. You've heard a lot about that in the last couple hours. It's that unwritten set of rules that no one's been directly taught, but everybody knows it. Violations of these rules can make you an individual a social outcast. Like Mark said, that kid might be getting beat up on the playground after this bathroom situation. It differs across age, who you're with, gender, and culture. For example, don't talk about blood in a restaurant. I have to tell my son all the time, we don't talk about zombies eating brains. Well, there's somebody eating right next to you. When you're in the boys' locker room, keep your eyes up and out. None of this stuff. Whoa! Okay? What are some other hidden curriculum items that you encounter? Any other thoughts?
Well, you don't comment on someone is a loved person if they have breath, if they
Gray hair. Hit her with the Yep, I'm getting a lot of bald stuff from my guys right now. Andrew, you are bald. Yeah, I am, buddy. Yep. You kind of hurt my feelings there, Randy. No. So,
on the right side of the hall. I mean, I see our kids, I just cringe. Everybody's walking, there they are, cutting against
yeah. It just drives you nuts. Yeah. Good. I got a good one for you. At what age, by survey, do you think it becomes socially inappropriate for kids to pick their nose? Like, at what age do they start to go, oh, nasty, he's picking his nose? 5? Okay. So kindergarten age? Anybody? No? I see head shaking here. What do you think? You, ma'am? Okay, 5. All right. Right. But you've got some 5-year-olds now that are saying, nasty, that's gross. Okay, so between the ages of 4 and 5, did you sit down those kids and did you say, all right, children, you're all turning 5 next year. Nose picking will no longer be allowed. It is disgusting once you're 5. Did you do that? No. How on earth did that enter the collective unconscious of those student body to say, oh, wait, all of a sudden that's icky? How did that happen? But now if you're in 6th grade and you're picking your nose, there goes that Sadie Hawkins date. And if you are 50 and picking your nose in public, hey man, that just shows you're cool with it, right? Like you were saying, whatever, I don't care. I'm comfortable. All right, but nothing explicit was taught to those people that say, when you're 5, you stop. There was no explicit teaching. It just sort of came out of the ether into the minds of those kids. Our friends on the autism spectrum sometimes aren't getting those messages through the ether that the other kids are getting. And what happens? They miss some pretty big unwritten rules. You know what, man? You do not talk about a girl being sexy in 6th grade to her face, because that will get you expelled. That will get you kicked out. And it's serious. A social outcast. Tara's guy, that was having these challenges, he's now labeled a stalker. Maybe he just missed the hidden curriculum that when a girl is in the hallway, that's just not how you do it. That's not how you introduce yourself or ask her on a date. And now he's got a label, right? A stalker. Okay. I'll tell you one story of a guy later where the hidden curriculum was obviously not adding up for him. But think about this. Our kids on the spectrum are missing a lot of these key things. So here are some resources. They are hidden curriculum 1-a-day calendars, and there are books out there. There's good old Judy Endow again. She was the work with me, not on me gal that I talked about. She helps create a lot of this hidden curriculum materials. And if you are not like me, and you can buy a calendar from a year that isn't the current year, you can get these calendars at a very sharp discount from the publisher. And that is the Autism Asperger Publishing Company. If you just Google Hidden Curriculum Calendar, it'll come up. But if you want to go to their site, it's the Autism Asperger Publishing Company. And these are really cool things. They've got things like Don't Talk About Blood in the Restaurants, a 1-a-day where you can have it almost as your bell ringer or something that starts off your discussion that day. I have a hard time buying the old ones because my OCD kind of ramps up then. It's like, it's not matching. Okay. Everybody get the name there to search for those? Those are really cool. Something to put on your desk. Yeah. Judy. Yep, Judy Endow. So, Ginger? Yep. And Judy's big on Facebook. She's all over Facebook too. Very, very cool woman. Very cool. Here's another tool to try. It's the Incredible 5-Point Scale by Carrie Dunn-Burren, or A 5 is Against the Law. I cannot tell you how many times we use this tool. It is so simple but powerful. And what it shows is social boundaries. We've got a 1 here, which is socially safe behavior. 2, safe, no problem. 3, starting to get a little iffy. 4, getting dangerous. 5, getting extremely, extremely serious. So we can help a person visualize through this. It's a simple little parabola, basically, a bell shape that starts at a 1, 2, 3, 4, and when you get to the pinnacle, a 5. And it can be very clear information visually presented to a person on the spectrum to show, when I hit a 4 or a 5, the cops might be called. This is very serious business. And what we can do at each level to cope with what the behavior might be or what the situation is. It's very visual. It's very simple. You can adapt it. I know some kids, for the younger group, I'll take dinosaurs, and so I'll ask them, what's the nicest dinosaur out there? And they'll say the Trabasabadabada. And I'll say, okay, let's draw a Trabasabadabada. And I'll say, what's the kind of a mean dinosaur, but still gets along well with others? Oh, that's the Plesiosaurus. Okay, good. And then we draw Plesiosaurus. What's the meanest, nastiest dinosaur? The T-Rex. Right, so we draw a T-Rex. And if you have a really sharp kid, he'll give you the Latin name, the Cenozoic era that it came from, all those things. And what we do then is we've adapted that scale into a tangible way that a younger person might attach to it. And we say, okay, so that 1 is that Plesiosaurus. A 3 is that medium, and then a 5 is that Tyrannosaurus. And these are all the things that can happen if we get to those levels. One quick example. I worked with a young man who went from thinking girls were icky to overnight being turned on. He was ready to start dating. All right, girls are good. And what he did in the course of that 12-hour period was make a list of girls that he wanted to date, but also a list of girls he did not want to date. Which is normal. We all can do that, right? We're thinking, all right, I'm in the market. I'm going to probably go for this group over here, and I'm not so into that. But we do it all inside. But what he didn't catch through the hidden curriculum issue was that you don't show those lists around. And what he did was bring each list to each group. So he showed the girls he was interested in, hey, baby, he made the cut. Which is slightly creepy, but then he took the list over and said, hey, baby, you did not make the cut. And he meant no malice by it. He meant no ill intent whatsoever. He missed the hidden curriculum that you just don't do that. You keep that stuff inside. Or you express it in a different way. He missed it, and it cost him social points, right? It cost him social points with his peers. And how do you get that back after you've told 12 girls, sorry, baby, didn't make the cut? How do you get that back? Another tool to try is a social autopsy, which is basically kind of and these are by Lavoie, but that's basically a way to debrief after something serious has happened, or any social situation that you need to talk about. Again, the social autopsies are a resource. Rather than me print it all out and throw it in that folder, if you want it, you can go get it. It's on the web. It identifies the error. What happened? What was the mistake? Was anybody hurt by it? What should I do to correct it? And what could be done next time? What's cool about this format is you don't have to use strictly text. If it's somebody that responds to pictures better, you can enhance this with pictures. But what the tool is designed to do is just to say, okay, we got to teach something here. Some part was missed. Yeah. Sweet. Social Response Pyramid by Falvo. Jot that one down. Cool. Is that something that the PERC in Jefferson County, or are you all, do you have a okay. 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 Everybody get that? Social something pyramid? Social Response Pyramid by Falvo. Okay, there you go. There's another tool. That's a little more maybe glitzy, a little more visual to get the kids interested. And you can make your own. This is obviously, there's 4 questions there. Design your own. That's okay. How to correct it. How to plan for next time. There's another method called SODA. And that's just stop, observe, deliberate, act. And what that's trying to do is get people to slow down before they jump into a social situation. Because a lot of the times, Mark talked about executive functioning, right? Being able to sequence things and plan things out over a long period of time. That can be really tricky, especially when there's social anxiety or pressure. So the SODA method is just stop. Identify what's going on in the environment. Find a place to observe so that you can watch and see what's going on. Take it in. What are they playing? What's the mood? What are people saying? Is it active? Is it quiet? Deliberate. Think. Self-awareness part again. Think. What do I want to do? What's my plan of action? And then act. It's just a 4-step pneumatic device to kind of remember how to enter into social situations. Okay, video modeling. I want to show you really quickly this method because it can be very powerful. How many of your students love computers and TV time, movies? A lot of kids, and they can get really turned on by seeing things in videos. I want to check my time quick. Cool, okay. So, video modeling. Using video recording display technology, this does not have to be super duper fancy. It can be pretty straightforward. But there's 4 general types, and that's basic. So you just show, like if you're working on shoe tying, you can just show the person tying a shoe. That's kind of the basic level. If you're doing video self, the person sees themselves in the video performing the task, and I'll teach you an editing trick on that. Point of view is from the perspective of where that person's eyes would be. And then video prompting is how we could teach shoe tying, teeth brushing through steps, where you watch a little bit of a video, you pause it, you perform that step. You watch the next step of the video, perform the next step. So in basic, someone other than the learner models it, then they view it at a later time. Self is model, you record them displaying the target behavior, and you're saying, Andrew, how on earth do you do that if they can't do it? Through the magic of movie making. I'll tell you a quick story. There was a young man that would not share a ball. If anybody tried to come over and take a ball from him, he got very, very upset. But one of his dreams was to be in the Special Olympics basketball team. So this was a big deal. How do you be on a basketball team without sharing the ball? What we ended up doing was sitting him down and having a ball in his lap, and he just rolled it across the floor. So the ball then was rolling off camera. I then, after he was at lunch, got his peer Skylar to sit down. We had a ball come into frame into her lap, and she said, "Thank you, Carlos." Well, through the magic of movies, we stuck those two together, and voila, it looked like he had shared the ball with her. And we got to all go nuts saying, "That's it, way to go." And he loved it. He loved seeing that play out. He was fascinated. Again? You play it? Again? Way to go, Carlos, that's amazing. So there's some self-modeling where you can do some trickery there to show them actually doing the target behavior that they don't have the skill of at the time. Does that kind of make sense? Here's an example where we used self-video modeling, and we incorporated at the beginning. It's going to be a little quiet, but what she is doing is reading a social story about handshakes versus hugs. So we did a social story on it, which she reads at the beginning, and then you'll see her performing in this actual video. So we're working on, this was a gal that would go into Food Lion and give out hugs to everybody, including the guy asking for change outside. She's the closest to an angel I've ever met. She is the nicest person you will ever meet, but that played into a disadvantage because she was in her early 20s, and we know what can happen. We know what can happen in that situation. So this is my friend. I think the social story is going to be a little quiet at the beginning, but she's just reading basically that 4-part story.
It's like, I love you, I miss you, and you're terrific. Sometimes using a handshake is better than using a hug. If I see or meet someone, a stranger, that I have never met before, I should use a handshake. Hugging a stranger can make them uncomfortable, even though I don't mean to make them feel that way. A handshake is the best thing to use with strangers, and others I don't know well. Handshakes are always a good choice, and no matter what.
Blue eyes.
Good.
Look at her eyes. There, right? Look up there. Brown eyes, right? Yeah, blue eyes.
Count how many times she's shaking here.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, Claire. Now, hold on to my hand there, girl. There you go. All right.
There.
Very good.
And cut.
And look right in the camera when you. There you go. Nice.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, Claire. Nice
Hello.
to meet you.
Hi, Claire.
Hello.
Hi, Claire.
Hello. And hi, Andrew.
Hi. Nice to see you.
And cut.
How are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
So now you're in
So
charge.
Claire, if I go like this, what do I need to do?
So that's more like, oh, you're vulnerable.
Hold her head up. She needs to hold her head up. Ah,
Good, Claire.
nice to meet you. Okay. Look at what she did. Ah, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Okay. So this was a young lady that when she would walk by the front door and she would see her reflection, she'd be, Andrew. She'd be checking herself out. She loved to watch this video of herself. She loved it. And what was so cool is she got to see a lot of opportunities for those skills built into it. And I think it helped her quite a bit. Do you kind of see how we had fun? She was the self as model. Okay. And did you see that we had to practice the 2-shake release? Because she was doing them over and over and over, and Mom's going, okay, okay, okay. So we had to break it down and say it's a 2-shake release. That's, again, a hidden curriculum thing. That's what we do. We don't shake a person's hand forever. Point of view modeling is recorded from the perspective of the learner. We did this for Mill Creek Intermediate in Berkeley County at one point, where we had a bunch of kids that were transitioning into the school. So what we did was take a video camera from the time a bus arrives all the way in to see where the office was, down the hall to where their classroom was going to be, and even in the classroom where the fire alarm was, where the phone was that was going to ring, where the teacher's desk was, and where the computer was, because they love computer. And what we were able to do then is over the summer they could watch that video and basically prepare for that transition visually, so that when they hit there on day one, they essentially had walked that pathway a few times so they weren't hitting it cold. So if you know you've got a bunch of people coming into your school, or you know a bunch of people are leaving your school for another school, that can be a fun way to create a point of view video so that you can give those to mom and dad and the person over the summer. They can check it out a few times, and that can just help your transition. And then prompting, that's just something we use to help teach skills. Like a video, you'd play step 1 and stop it, tie your shoe, step 2 and stop it. And one of the last things we'll talk about is just using fun. For me, like I said, I was a recovering theater major, so this was a no-brainer for me to start to try some of those theater activities. And some of the things we do are like body sculpting and awareness, vocal play and soundscapes, masks for autism, using focal points, role-playing, scenes, plays, productions. I can't tell you how many people I've met that would say, this guy, he got into the high school play and all of a sudden it was like he just lit up. All of a sudden he had a home. Why do you think that might be? Why do you think the theater might be a good place for a person? I'll tell you one thing. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Step into somebody else's shoes, which you'd think would be really hard for a person that they say lacks empathy. Yeah.
It tells them exactly what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's nice. Oh, I'm supposed to stand here now and say this line. Ooh, I like it. There's structure there. And also, I found growing up in the theater that the weirder you are, the better. And so all of a sudden, out there in the hallway where I'm the guy that's getting beat up, in here, I'm the king of the universe. Weird is cool in here. Awesome, that is great. And theater people are usually open and understanding and accepting people and not afraid to make mistakes. And out in the cruel hallway, you've got one shot. If you make a mistake walking in the hallway, that's it. But in the theater, you've got a bunch of chances to fall flat on your face, and you're in a community of people that say, get up, do it again, no worries, it's cool. That was super weird, I loved it. Okay, so what I want to do really quickly is ask for another volunteer. And don't everybody look down at once. You've seen now the precedent has been set that there are reinforcers available. Would anybody like to volunteer? Anyone? Bueller. Oh, Sarah. Shen, okay. Woohoo! All right, Sarah. We're going to play a game. Do you want to be the clay or the sculptor?
The clay.
Okay. So Sarah and I are going to play. I just want to check and see how much time I have. Okay. We're going to play a game called Clay and Sculptor. I used to call this Human Sculptures, but I determined that that sounded a little too much like Silence of the Lambs or a horror movie. Human Sculptures. Clay and Sculptor. So you're Clay. So what we're going to do when we play this game, in fact, it'd be better if another person came up. You raised your hand. Can you come up? Okay, so you're going to be the sculptor. And what I want you to do at first is just pick an emotion and try to sculpt that into her body. One of the first steps you want to do, though, is just check in with her and see if she's okay if you touch her. Good. Yep. Try to sculpt it into her body. She is a neutral piece of clay, and you are going to move her into position. Okay. Folks, what do you think the emotion is that she picked? Ooh, excited. Some of you said, yay, which is the sound that she might be making. What might she be thinking right now? I did it, yay. Good, good, good. Okay, now switch.
Yes, you can.
All right, what emotion is that? Sad. Not going well. Okay. What potentially could have happened to make her day not go so well?
She didn't get it.
Okay. Good. Good. What's something that could turn her day around? What's something that could come along and make a person happy? Free hugs? Did you say free hugs? Okay. Okay, so Sarah, how would you shift her from this to something really good just happened in her life? How would you shift Leslie to make it represent something good that just happened? Okay, good, 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 good. Now, as you look at this game, pretty simple. All we're doing is just moving body parts around. But as a game, what do you feel like some of the skills might be that are present in a game like this? What's a kid on the spectrum or any kid learning from this game? Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, predict what happened, or yeah, make an inference. What could I do to make it better? What else?
Well, actually, some kids don't know expressions.
Uh-huh. Right. So that they might be learning expressions. So somebody might be coaching them on through how do you make somebody look happy or sad. Good. Anything else? Think about that incredible 5-point scale. Where do we get in trouble when we start to interact, especially with the opposite sex? Right. Did you say asking to touch? Yep. Right. So she, at the very first step, said, is it okay if I touch you? What a good skill that is, right? Okay. And also to create safe touch. You can just touch here on the wrists or maybe a little bit on the face. Okay, good. Now, you guys willing to stay up a little bit more? We're going to get super freaky. We're going to I don't know why they're shuddering. What's the matter with me? Okay, these cool things were made by a mask maker in Indianapolis, and I will tell you right now, out of the gate, that 50% of the kids, when I bust these bad boys out, say, put those things away. 50% or so, maybe a little bit more. But there are some kids who totally get into it. You can do these with paper mache, you can do the balloon masks, those kind of things. But let's play a game with these. So what I want you to do is just pick a mask. Leslie, are you okay with wearing a mask? Okay. Leslie, you pick a mask. Put it on Sarah. Uh-huh. Yep, this time you do get to see it first. Yep. There you go. Are you comfortable, Sarah? Okay. Uh-huh. Okay, good. Now, Sarah, how does a person, you saw the mask, oh, you didn't see it. Okay, good. Now she didn't see it. So what I want you to do is to shape her body to match that emotion, but don't tell her what it is. Do not tell her what it is, but shape her body without looking at these other ones. Shape her body to show you, give her information. Okay. Sarah, did that give you enough clue? How do you feel?
Excited?
Okay, good. Now, how does an excited person walk? Yep. Yep. A little bounce in her step. Okay. I saw several of you come into the training this morning like that. Excited and happy to be here. Good, Sarah. You can take the mask off. Nice. Okay, now switch, Sarah. You can pick one for you. And Leslie, turn around so you don't see which one it is. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. One of my favorites. Okay. Are you comfortable, Leslie? Okay, turn around. Okay. 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 Leslie, how do you feel? I don't care. Oh. You feel like you what? Like you know it? Okay, okay. Can you give her any more information to get her a little closer honed in onto what that mask is? Ah. Okay, good. Now, Leslie, you picked it. It's kind of mad or frustrated. How does a person that's mad or frustrated walk? Good. All right. Sheesh. Holy moly. Excellent, excellent. Okay, you can take that off. Good. Give her a hand. Nice. Okay, so again, what are some skills that we're learning here? What are some things we're teaching? What is it? Reading body emotion, did you say? Yeah.
And how to communicate them.
Uh-huh.
We're learning a communication skill to
Right.
interact and
Uh-huh.
try to get their point across and their interpretation across.
Did it look boring? No, it was kind of fun. Kind of fun. Some of your students are going to not get into this. You put a mask on, it smells different. Ladies, was it kind of uncomfortable? Were you comfortable?
It's a little uncomfortable.
A little uncomfortable. So you're going to have kids that little hot. So you can make the paper mache ones. One of the other things I like to do is you can take just fabric and make just a two-dimensional fabric mask. And you can make really comfy ones if you're interested in this. If you have an art teacher in your building that's really turned on, that might partner up with you on a project like this. There's just some really fun emotion games you can play. Sarah, for volunteering to put on the gross, disgusting masks, you are now the proud owner of an Autism Training Center bear. I don't have a consolation prize for you, Leslie. I'm very sorry. Okay. Now, you thought that stuff was creepy. Check these bad boys out. So what I told Doug is, I said, Doug, I want to try to teach my friends how to make faces match. So how to use the muscles in their face. So check these guys out. So what I have to do as a skill is look at this, CSI, and I got to say, okay, happy. Now, I'm only going to get to use this part of my facial expressive muscles. We know our friends in the spectrum sometimes struggle with expressivity in the face and in the voice. So what we're trying to do is maybe help them learn those muscles that match. Does this match? No. Why doesn't it match? Oh, it's because these muscles, usually when we're happy, go up. And what can happen is a person ties and tunes into their emotions a little bit more, as well as being able to decode others too. So between all those things, you can kind of have a fun time teaching emotions rather than just in a social story, looking at a picture or something like that. You can play with it and you can have fun. Social skills development does not have to be two-dimensional. It can be a lot of fun. Another thing we do is reading comprehension. So what I'll do is I'll put the paper mache masks or these masks out and I'll say, okay, once upon a time, and I'll tell a story, and they have to listen to the events in the story and change masks and walks based on what's happening in the story. So we were walking in the park and we saw a rabid gorilla. And the gorilla started to chase me. Those kind of things. So you can start to build in some reading comprehension, storytelling skills, taking turns, things like that. I'm going to talk about this one just for a second because I think this is so cool. I use this one all the time as an example. What emotion do you think this one is? What do you think? Surprised, did I hear somebody say? Bewildered? Good. Throw a few more out. What was that one? What else? Anybody? What's so cool about this one is most people attribute it to a positive affect, but as soon as you start to change the quality of other parts of your body, this thing takes on a new life. So what we can teach is the face is sometimes not the most reliable thing to watch, because we are good liars too. I can look at you and you can tell me a story about your son and I can go, well, that's really interesting, and inside I go, huh, God, finish this story. We're really good at being liars. So it's kind of interesting games to play where you can see how the body affects emotional recognition and development. It's my last story about the masks, and then I will move on. Last week, working with a family, they want to go to the Great Wolf Lodge so badly in Williamsburg, but the daughter is afraid of mascots. She's been afraid of mascots forever. Terrified. Terror. Tell me something that terrifies you. Is anybody afraid of snakes? Take that fear and times it by 1,000 and you've got her mascot fear. Terror. So what we did was, I went out to the old Jeep, I brought in my masks and I said, here we go. It could be either put those things away or yippee. And I got lucky that she got into it. So what we did was show her that people in a mascot suit are no different than your brother, your sister, or you when you put this on. It's just a person. And so we got to play with the masks. And at the end of the day, she went, it's just a person. They're going to try to go. And what we try to do is call Great Wolf ahead of time so she can see the actor put the suit on and relate it back to that experience she had. So it's another kind of interesting situation that came out of those creepy old masks. If anybody wants to borrow those to go hold up Wells Fargo Bank, you can just return it to me by 5:30. Self-advocacy, and then we're wrapping up here. We talked a little bit about this morning, the importance of self-advocacy. I need help. Being able to say I need help is such a critical skill. And if our students don't have that, what do we see sometimes? What do we see in behavior when they can't say I need help? Frustration, who wouldn't? I am no good at mechanics, and if I have something wrong with my automatic van door that should just pull and shut, I need help, and if I can't say that, I get really frustrated. Being able to say, that bothers me. We work with students that have such sensitive hearing that if you tear a little piece of paper across the room, they're covering their ears and yelling. How powerful if they could say, what you're doing is bothering me. Can you stop doing that? Being able to self-advocate to say, I want to learn about this. How many of your kids go to their IEP meetings? Okay, a couple. But how powerful to sit in a room and see a person on the spectrum stand up in front of that group of usually strangers and people in nice ties and things and say, I want to learn more about mechanics, or I really want to learn about construction, or I want to learn about space. It's so powerful, and it changes that whole quality of that IEP meeting to have their voice say that. It doesn't have to be through a larynx either. It could be through an iPad. It could be through a drawing. It could be through a video they created and had someone play on their behalf. But how powerful to hear from them to say, I want to learn more about this. Or to be able to go to a restaurant and say, I have an autism spectrum condition. Can I not be seated underneath these canned lights because I get migraines? I would like to experience fill in the blank. To be able to say that through whatever channel that person communicates is so powerful. And I can understand, too, the parent perspective that's afraid to let that go. My daughter's at 4-H camp, and it's 4-H camp. She's 30 miles away. I'm terrified. I'm looking at every single human being in that place saying, are you an abuser? Are you somebody I can trust? It's terrifying. But when we let go of that control, you know what I think it comes down to a lot of the times, and I'll get off my soapbox after this? We're afraid to see people fail. We want people to be successful so badly, and we want our students to be successful so badly, we're afraid to let go of that bike seat. Go, go, go. You're going to crash and you're going to skin your knee. I know it, but just go. We're so afraid to do that. It's understandable. It's in our nature to create those opportunities. You're thinking to yourself, okay, great, but how do I teach this? There is a dynamite curriculum out there called the Integrated Self-Advocacy Curriculum, created by Valerie Paradis. It is a lesson-by-lesson walkthrough on how to become your own self-advocate. There are different entry points, so you don't necessarily have to be a reader. There are visuals that can go with it, but it is an actual curriculum that can take your students through the process of self-advocacy. It is powerful stuff. And self-advocacy, do not forget, is everything from I need help to I want to learn more about this. Okay. Here's just one example. This is out of the social chapter. It's called the social scan. And what Valerie has set up is this system where you go into a new environment. It's a bit like that SOTA, stop, observe, deliberate, act. But you scan that environment and you say, okay, how many people are in here? 24. That's a lot for me. How does that make me feel? It's a little stressful. Do I have to sit at a small table or is it spread out? Is the mood a funeral-like? Is it wedding-like? I have to scan that environment and make inferences and decisions on how I feel about it. And then it creates an advocacy plan. Do I need to tell somebody, you know what, thank you for the Panera, but I'm going to go eat outside just because I get a little anxious when I'm eating around people? Or do I say, you know what, it's a room full of jocks and I can't handle it, I gotta go outside. But it's a social scan process, which leads to an advocacy plan. This is what I'm gonna say or do to get my needs met. And each one of these chapters gets into that. There's a chapter on IEP involvement. There's a chapter on learning about role models in the autism community, which is so important. It's just a great resource. I can't praise it enough. The final thing I want to talk about, and this is where maybe you all have some power in your situation, is to create some sort of club or group or supportive environment where socialization can happen. There's a gal in our agency, Peggy Hovatter, who is the absolute guru at this. She is so good at creating a safe space for people to be themselves. But a club that has structure and a little bit of predictability, there's some visuals to support it, games, snacks, loose socialization. It doesn't have to be the social skills club. It could be your chess club. It could be a Lego group. It could be people that love Warcraft or Minecraft, like Tara was talking about. But if you can create some sort of environment where kids can come together, practice hanging out with each other, and do something fun and interesting in a safe space, you've done something very, very powerful. If you need help getting something like that started, talk to us, because we can get you connected with Peggy, who travels around helping people start clubs up. And that's just an opportunity as a teacher to have that space in a building where maybe you do have opportunities to create a club or a group. Okay. The last thing is just to come back to you is enough. Carolyn, I was deeply touched by your story this morning. And before we go, I want us to think about, yes, how you felt there in that moment. And that was very visceral to hear you tell that story. Now imagine we're in the same barber shop and we're on the autism spectrum and we're 1 seat over or we're 2 seats over. And we hear somebody say, "Oh, that's so sad. I'm so sorry to hear that." We've got a message from a third party that we're broken, we're damaged, there's something wrong, we're diseased. And if we stop and we pause and we look at the current media on autism, you'll hear people. We heard a high-profile legislator in front of bunches of people on the spectrum say this horrible disease. And that just sends messages. It sends very clear messages that things are broken, things need fixed, things are sick. And we just want to be very careful about that we remind ourselves that that person, whether or not they're spitting at me, they're having a meltdown in public, that person still at the core is whole. They just need a little bit more support to have a higher quality of life. And I think this is an awesome opportunity. Thank you so much for everybody coming together today, and let's take it forward.